Hi, my name is Bianca Werneck. I'm from Brazil and I did my bachelor in museum studies. Now I'm doing a master in archaeological materials science in 3 universities in Europe. The first one is in Évora, Portugal, the second one is Aristotle in Greece, and the third is Sapienza in Italy. And right now I'm in Aristotle, I'm in Greece, and I decided to come from humanities to science because of my work experience in conservation in museums, and I realized that I need more chemical data on the objects in order to better preserve them, and to increase my knowledge on the subject, I decided to enroll this master. And because we are now in quarantine, we decided to do these videos telling you guys a little bit more about our profession and how things work. So more details on conservation of the objects, I'm gonna start in my presentation on exposition. Hi guys, so in here we begin my presentation on expography, and expography is one of the areas that we study on museum studies, and there is a lot when it comes to making an exposition, but I've selected some of the topics that I think would be more interesting for the general public. So let's start. In here I have some basic concepts on what is a museum, what is museology, just so we're all in the same page. So this time I'm gonna read it. A museum is a non-profit permanent institution in the service of society and its development, open to the public, which acquires, conserves, researches, communicates, and exhibits the tangible and intangible heritage of humanity and its environment for the purposes of education, study, and enjoyment. And this definition was given by ICOM when it comes to defining what are the basics of a museum. So every museum should follow these instructions. And as for museology, perhaps it's not very clear because of the image box, but it says that museology is a general name for museum studies, which infers the knowledge on history, art history, cultural heritage, management, and conservation in order to better preserve the goods in specific institutions. This is my definition, is what I think of museology, and I think it's a very general term for it, so you can go by it. So in here I made a brief summary on what is the museological work, where do we act, what are our organizations, and if you're interested you can pause this video and check it out, because I'm not going to read everything because it's a lot and it's not the main point of this presentation. So the term that we are working on here is expography. And why? Expography is the management and the assembling of an exposition, thinking about all the details of gathering funds on how is it going to happen, like what is the main purpose of this exposition, how is the design, what are the materials we have available, do we have the collection that we want, do we have to ask for another museum or another institution to give it to us, how is the public going to react, like everything. This is the expography. The exposition is like the art that is presented to the public, to the visitors of the museum or the institution. So there is a difference, but we're going to refer here to exposition or expography. And this concept is important while thinking in exposition. As is written there, the exposition is taught among all the museum workers or taught together with an artist. Why is there a difference? Sometimes the new exposition is a will of the museum itself with objects that you already have. It's just a new reading, a new thought of them, a new collection. So you don't need an artist to do it, but sometimes an artist makes a lot of artwork that turns into a collection and you want to expose it in one specific exposition. So in that case, you need to know what is the goal, what is the main point of the artist while making this object, so you can really put it out for the public to see when they enter the exposition. The main goal of an exposition is to make the public know what they saw. You can not understand all of the paintings, all of the objects you saw. Sometimes it's just a feeling. What is the feeling you want the public to have when they leave the exposition? That's what should be your main goal. Gathering funds is what I think one of the hardest parts, but it depends on whether you are an institution, a museum, if you're public, if you are private. There are laws in different countries that get cultural stuff, so you need to know your laws. You can also ask money in the museum's friends and for private institutions, because sometimes if private institutions fund your exposition, they also get something from the government, so it's a good trade. And making the exposition is the critical time. Nothing can go wrong. You thought of everything, you did all your plans, the basics, the blueprints, everything. So while making the exposition, everything needs to go on point. This is the most stressful part for a museologist, for a conservator, for everybody that is involved in the exposition, because it's a 24/7 work to assemble everything where it's supposed to be. All the details, lighting, materials, are the objects clean, is the space clean, all of the colors that you're going to choose to put on the walls or as supports or in the boxes. So everything needs to be according to the original plan. In here, I divided in topics some of the steps that concern the exposition planning. And the first one is mission of museum artists' vision. As I said before, they need to be on point. If you are a natural history museum, it's not good for you to make a contemporary art exhibition. It doesn't go with your mission, with what you are supposed to give the public. So that needs to be on point. Plus, in this phase, you're going to think about the concept behind the exposition, what you want the public to feel, why are you doing this exposition? You need to have that very clear in your mind. Objects availability. I'm going to give an example because I think it will be easier to understand. So if you are a museum in Brazil and you want to make an exposition on Da Vinci's collection, you're going to have to ask some European museums who have the artwork of Da Vinci to lend it to you so you can make the exposition. That is only for temporary expositions that happens. So you need to know the availability, like, are they available? Can I do the exposition? Are they gonna lend me? And so on. And that leads to partnerships with museums or other institutions that possesses the artwork that you want to put in your collection, in your exposition. About the funding and the materials, you need to think not only of the payment of the workers that are going to assemble the exposition, but all of the materials, all of the supports, glasses, boxes, everything needs to be on this plan, and even a little extra in case something goes wrong. The security, it concerns to the security of the objects, of course, but also the security of the visitors. So you need to think of both of them while making the exposition. The design thinking goes together with the concept of the exposition. If you want an exposition more interior, if you want the public to really go inside, you usually use dark colors. If you want a more bright and smooth, light exposition, literally you use light colors and many other concepts, of course. The advertisement is one big part of every successful exposition. The usage of social media, newspapers, or TV, it depends on what is your target public and you must know what tools to use to find them, to make them go into your exposition. So this advertisement also has to do with what you offer the visitors. Are you offering them a discount? How much does it cost? Do they have anything if they go there? Why should the visitors go? So this is a really big part of the exposition. The date planning is also very important because you don't want to compete with other expositions. If you want your public, let's say if you have a school public is the main goal of your exposition and another exposition for young people is opening in the same week, it's not good for you. So you should think about it when you are planning the date of the grand opening. And lastly, the public survey is important before and after the exposition. Before, to know if your target public will visit the exposition if they really are interested in that subject that you think they are. And after, you should know if your exposition achieved the main goal. Was it successful? You will only know if it's successful not because of the money that it gave the museum or the institution, but if the visitors went out of there knowing and feeling what you wanted them to know and feel. So from all of these important topics, I've separated some that I think would be more interesting for the general public, such as the conservation of the objects while they are in exposition. Why do you ask that? Usually, the objects in a museum stay in the technical reserve, which is a place or several places, if the museum has money for it, where the objects are conserved in their best humidity and temperature and everything's clear. But when they are in exposition, they don't have that much, let's say, security. So you need to be extra careful when the objects are on display. You have many factors that could destroy the objects, like humans. People can steal it, people can touch it, can drop something on it. Anything can happen. And also, because visitors are going, well, the air, everything is a degradation factor for your objects, so you need to be extra careful with them. So the most important aspects while the objects are in exposition are thinking about cleaning of them, the security, the light, and the temperature and humidity. The light is a degradation factor, period. There's nothing you can do about it, but you can put filters and use specific lights that don't degrade that much. And also, if you use acrylic or glass, sometimes you can put also a filter in there, even if the public continues to see the object, but they are protected from the light. And temperature and humidity, what is that? So every object that has ever been made by man has a specific temperature and humidity that is the ideal for them. So if you're talking about paper, paper has a specific temperature and humidity which is different from ceramics, which is different from paintings. So also a factor when you put all of these objects together in an exposition is to think about what is the temperature and humidity you're going to put in the room. And if some of them are very not close when it comes to these two, you can put them in separate boxes, like in separate showcases that have a control and unique control of temperature and humidity so they can be best preserved. So it's really important to consider the specificity of each material that is in the exposition. When it comes to conservation, it's also very important to tell that the exposition should not be open 24/7 for the public. Why? You should have 1 or 2 closing days in the week so you can have the cleaning of the room and of the objects. Yes, we clean the objects even when they are in exposition. of course, is a more light cleaning, like you're just gonna maybe the dust, but it's very important, it's crucial actually, and to check if everything's fine, everything is on place, all the lights are working, if everything is okay. In here you have some of the equipments that are used to measure the temperature and humidity of the rooms or in the objects. Like these examples I put it, the objects are separated in the exposition in their showcases, and they have a unique type of temperature and humidity inside of there, and maybe some UV protection as well. So these are some examples. Now about the design of an exposition. The design is not only positioning the objects in order to be beautiful, let's say. Every placement in there has a reason, and it can be a reason by material, so the composition of the object. So in this part we have ceramics, in this part we have paintings, or it can be by timeline. If they're all paintings, you can put a timeline of the paintings, or even if there are different objects, you can also put this is what they used to do in this time period, and now this is what they used to do in this time period, and you evolve in that way. So every placement on the exposition has a reason, and that's why everybody should follow the lines of the exposition. How high the objects are, this is also a thought question, because you should place them where everybody can see. You should consider what is your public and consider that other people can visit, some people on wheelchair, children, really tall people. So you should put on a height that is clear enough for everybody to see. The colors, as I said before, the colors really change everything, even if they are the colors on the sports or the colors on the walls. But I'm going to give some examples on colors later on. And even in that, thinking about how it changes when you see some different colors, the materials that you use as supports or on the floor and walls of the exposition also give a different feeling. For example, if you are a historical museum talking about the Second War, for example, as the Uprising Museum in Warsaw, you have walls made of bricks. Everything is rough. The colors are dark, and you have some sands on the floor. Everything there is to remind you of what a war looks like. So even the materials that you use, like wood, hard materials, take you back to this type of environments, while light materials like glass, transparent ones, are more contemporary, so it reminds you of something newer and also more peaceful. So in these slides, I'm going to show the differences of the usage of lights. This is the Holocaust Museum in Washington in the US, and in here you have exactly like the one I said. You have bricks, you have dark colors, and you have big images. So that leads you to something, it leaves you with a feeling, and that feeling is not something that just happens to you. This is on purpose. Okay, remember, everything in the exposition has a purpose, even the feelings that you have. This is all something that we think of when we are assembling an exposition. And now you can tell the difference from Museo Nacional del Prado in Spain, where although they do have some exposition rooms with a collection that is more dark and therefore they use darker colors, the overall museum is very light. Why? Because their main goal, their main mission is the light, to show you the art, to make you feel like you're seeing something beautiful. So they use light colors and they give a lot of space. This is a big museum, so it takes you back to those times where museums were a really big space where you go to contemplate the objects. Like that's the goal. That's what they want you to feel. So this is why they do it like that. And also, if you pay attention, the light colors give you a sense of a more general picture. While if you use dark colors, it's more concentrated. I'm going to show this on the next slide. In here, we have an object of the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, in Egypt. And the showcase is black. Why is it black? It makes you see all the details of the object so much more. You can really tell what is the elements that they used, what are the materials that they used, and the gold really popped out. It stands out, and you can see this object as a unique object in that collection. And I tried to pick an image of some of the same objects. In this case, is the Shanghai Museum in China, and they did a collection on Egyptian art, and they used light colors. And why is that? Well, if you see this general picture, it has a lot of the coffins. So what they want is not for you to really go into one of the coffins and see the materials and everything that was used, but they want you to see the coffins. So it's a more general picture. In here, you can have an idea of the size of the coffin or how it was made and stuff like that. And that is what they want. They want you to see the general one. They want you to see Egypt. Now, information boxes, although it's not a very interesting topic, it's a very important one. Why? The exposition is not only for contemplation, it is also for that, of course, but it has something to tell. It has something to say. So, the main goal of the exposition is to put out some knowledge, to transmit something, and therefore you have the information boxes. They should be very precise and small. Why? Because it was tested before that people don't really read if you put a lot of text in the wall, and also it doesn't look very good with the design, so they should be precise, small, tell you what you want to know. Usually you have date, name of the artist, a little description of the materials that were used in that artwork, and sometimes how it got to the museum. Was it acquisition? Did they leave it to you? You can put that in the information of the exposition, not on the information boxes of each material, but in the general exposition. And that's it about the information. I'm not gonna stress you guys over this. This is like something very precise that the museologist should do in the exposition. And that was it. That was my presentation. Thank you guys for listening. I hope it was instructive. I hope you liked it. And if you're interested in the subject, you can email me, and you can also follow my page on Instagram with another museologist friend that we're posting everything about museums and about conservation. She's now a conservator, so we have a lot of topics on that. And also, thank you so much for the Society of Young Archaeologists to invite me to do this. And if you have also more questions, you can send them and they will tell me. If you want to know other stuff about museology, I can also do another presentation. So thank you.